Hello, America. Since before America was founded, and since founding, there is a theater forced not to be used as evidence that has recorded evidence is manifest with it. For example, the theater of what that is manifest when you hear summary convictions, summary opinions about what the Boston Tea Party was about. And then what they did that as our professionals, as our experts, for example, as victims. Then they defended that as victims because they came through campuses that were criminally foreign influenced. Uses of criminally foreign influenced premises treatments, sequence treatments, identity treatments. No campuses as identity of the ground locations. Not just as schools, fire campuses, medical campuses, the branches of government. This is an ancient republic with database relationships since before computers. So we have those are identity of the ground locations that have people associated with all natures of fields, like statistics gathering, studying things, studying issues. See, they're studying issues with physical delusions juxtaposed with criminal foreign influence premises treatment, sequence treatment, and defenses of that as styles manifest, as what is propagated to be maintained. See, that is being maintained now. That's a statement. Black Lives Matter. That is being used to pretend. No, in other words, they're being dishonest. There's dishonesty behind the statement, though. So they're trying to pretend. They're trying to take something that is true always, not denying exceptions, and they're engineering exceptions. And they are also keeping that layered, where and how we have black communities throughout this country and throughout the world that have been prevented reliefs. There are too many people at once that don't have jobs, not by accident, that don't have jobs worthy of themselves. People want to debate that by leaving out mandated law. They have roles with this extortion, worse than extortion method, predicate acts delivery system method that our founding parents wanted us to demonstrate. James Madison forced counter-extortion to the surface, to the identities of the surface values nations. Grouped nations, individually grouped and together, were forced as victims, forced to defend themselves by valuing how they were forced individually grouped and together without realizing. Tactically ulterior from how that one identity of value progression that is attached to our syntax nature, fact treatment nature, why we have these words/values, why we are supposed to communicate about such value systems. Identity of the ground locations relationship to and exceptions in exception nature. See, people who are involved as victims with tactically maintained identity of the ground relationships, all of them, and all database relationships further intersciences. So this is all victims that are types of experts. Everyone, and they rely on other types of experts. And they stay blind to what is through that. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, my town's police chief 1 year ago, are, for example, involved with recent wire crime acts that they're pretending are less than it is. People involved with it. Police forms with our police. So I want to bring up a video. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it again. But about Black Lives Matter. They have fake sides of issues since founding. They bring up, whenever you see on TV, they bring up KKK themed guys or Confederate flag themed guys. And they bring the alternative. I mean, they bring black people specifically because they need to hide as victims their roles, the people not there, but that are discernible. People associated with takes on American history that can't defend their convictions, their uses of them, and ourselves from what exploited that originally instilled. They can't afford to have mandated law followed. Not by accident. This is per a method that keeps. This is a syntax / fact treatment nature, sequence shifting nature. These movements with these are unities of black and white people that are as victims to then defend their fact treatments with that, which are offensively affront to the short words, and therefore more and more to the long words that we are more and more needed to use because they're preventing us, the short words. Mandated law. We have wire crime, frauds, and fabricated audio and video in courts each day. We had courts left, we had police forms left criminally foreign influenced. We had the branches of government, their fact treatment nature, their syntax, their convictions and opinions, delusions wrought and criminally foreign influenced. They are victim predators. They are pretending to be about virtues like that aren't even, they can't defend themselves in writing without valuing sequence shifts, without valuing all locations having been into collusion with what maintains all database relationships further and further into collusion. So, and they're stewards as victims, like of bad schools throughout the country. That's all of them. They have to value comparison to other bad schools, or worse. It's either sickly, distinctly bad, sickly, distinctly criminally foreign influenced, to keep out sickly, non-distinctly from being discerned, per a predicate acts delivery system method, a breaching method that was entrenched in America since before our country was founded. For example, if they don't explain how that forced slavery, for the fact treatment nature, for the fake, the evidence racketeering, and way worse than war crimes, roles forced self-value. Therefore, identities forced as criminal insidious natures, styles of premises treatments, sequence treatments, identity treatments, quality of value treatments as criminal insidious natures of positive and negative and collusion. So these are black and white people holding themselves together outside of their jobs, outside of their roles with and relationships to databases, because they need to hide live progressions, because they are involved with organized crime method that uses identities of the law, kept needing to hide live progressions, and kept conveniently finding means and needs to do that, and acts doing it, and methods to get away with it by using investigators, and vetting identities, which is also being used here, the perception of the American people, the perception of foreign people, relationship to of the law itself, invisible but still discernible identity of value / value progression. So we have worse than criminal incompetence on every single age and nature of campus across the globe. The campus Marsyas came was revealed with the republic that was revealed by humanity working together before sciences became criminally foreign influenced. Tactically criminally foreign influenced through discernible evil that the nations, all taken as victims, the identities of the ground, locations in other words, per a method that didn't realize their defenses were involved with what was forcing self-value, tactically denatured scientific process, tactically made a criminal and seditious nature, /s more and more. Humanity wrought to a self-valued identity of negative value nature progression. So we have all the narratives that you are only allowed to hear that are leaving out anyone who's going to use the short words or the long words and correlation as evidence. See, we have correlation for science is abridged, so the business is allowed to speak anyways. We have law for that. Anyway, they can speak and pretend to be legitimate, but they're not supposed to deny original and still our obligations to demonstrate how there is this breaching method, predicate acts, delivery system method relevant would cause slavery. What that was, which involves the fact, treatment, nature, slavery, forced words on our founding parents. So we have A-B logic here, and with passions and emotions that could calmly be resolved. But so we have that being maintained by these knaves. And so they have conveniently by a breaching method effectively maintains defenses of positive and negative treatments, identity treatments. People that don't even know. They use all exception nature to pretend other. You know what I'm saying? This is a database relationship. This is premises treatments, quality of human fact treatment nature. There are recorded bonded natures of organized crime upon all locations, let alone our most forsaken areas. As bad as the worst things are, the easier it is to discern such. The only reason, so admitting such in relationship to a breaching method is another thing entirely. See, then in other words, then people aren't going to be playing stupid. Excuse me, and exploiting all the fake positive, criminal and seditious natures of positive in collusion with the overt negative. Since everyone was a child, if you're really honest, then you're gonna realize. I mean, you could discern. Our branches of government confess, demonstrate, and record how they are maintained criminally for and influence victim predators, not knowing how to do other because of their roles with fact, treatment, nature-oriented predicate acts. And that being and having been sustained, they already had to cover up that by being involved with, not by accident, juxtaposed overt criminal enterprises, hundreds of other nations. For example, would sequence simultaneously here and there with the same sickly distinctly, effectively having been engineered to keep how sickly non-distinctly from being discerned by all modern nations, A through Z. See, we have, since semi-ancient times, since before modern nations, religions, which also logic reveals most probable and most practical to opine or to convict about the past. For example, in relationship to our republic itself as evidence, per correlation, per the campus system. That identity of sophistication that came from ancient times, also using evidences of correlation, where and how the database relationships, the identity thefts and frauds, unaddressed, originally and still regarding black, and regarding white simultaneously, and regarding intercultural. We have hundreds of nations, black and white, and other cultures. Before Americans founders were even born, they had entrenched slavery in North and South America, sickly distinctly. They had entrenched slavery in modern nations from semi-ancient times, sickly distinctly, per a long-term perpetual plan. These are black and white in collusion originally and still. This is everyone, intercultural and collusion. With these are qualities of fact-keeping nature that are forbidding mandated law. Therefore, they are forbidding evidences outside of courts. Therefore, inside of courts and inside of police stations and police database relationships, police forms, they have been fabricating audio and video. Wire crimes where they just lie about, put fake transcripts no one's watching. Mail crime rolls. See that all the programs that trained them were originally maintained, originally and still criminally foreign influenced. They need to pretend other by pretending to believe things about jobs, about statistics, about logic, offensively, predatory, and with physical delusions. So they're with violence, and they need to pretend to be against violence. They have physical delusions regarding what violence is too. In other words, they need to hide lie progressions to all locations. Where the branches of government individually grouped and together are maintained. Victim, predators, criminally foreign influence used remotely. This is all locations, areas, and states manifest as fact-keeping nature styles that force leaders to collusion with that as criminal and seditious natures of positive and as overt negative inclusion. Specifically, so the identities of modern nations could be that which is discerned through contrast rather than through correlation. Identity is correlation nature. When its complete nature is denied, when it is forced to be only value as a contrast nature, its nature demonstrates Leith of Hadith, forced space nature transfer. All exceptions in exception nature are in demonstration of this. So if you watch a YouTube video, you see, or you watch television and you see, look at things from a distance. See how small things are. See, we have a species body. We have the native rights forsaken. That there is, even as bad as that is, for example, is in sequence first too, no. Because when we come down to the black locations, impositions upon them, no, they don't have computers. Where and how they have access to online communications with people. Our communications with each other are being interrupted by sequence shifts that the urban areas and that the suburban areas are maintained needs increasingly to self-value that they are, not realized. Overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and our interbranches leaders and their family members and their neighbors per this method. Everyone's neighbors, they're attaching everyone to fake words, fake locations. And that adds up. Not just because it has, in other words, they're doing it so that they can keep bad things happening. And these are what is involved with influences over all kinds of all our studies, all our programs on and off campuses. They have conjunctions with this. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, other agencies. The retired and standing associated with Fox Connecticut News and with WFSB, with locations next to them. That's involved with them with wire crime, mail crime methods. They ignore people, and they're forging names, switching names, fabricating audio and video, and making overall allegations, pretending they don't understand people. They attach me to fake words, fake locations, fake ties to other people. They did this with kids before a principal child offender was found out. Off campus anyway. I found them with more on them. So in other words, they're preventing me free speech in short words by attaching me to fake words and pretending they didn't understand me as a means to pretend they had a conversation with me. They attach my family to fake words other than they already pleaded in cases. Because they did this with people. WFSB, Fox Connecticut News, has roles with World Trade Center leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and since. And they have roles with various natures of courts and their family members and various natures of police forms and their family members involved with predicate acts of juxtaposed natures on and off their locations. And they would rather have this addressed. And they forging names and switching names into branch is one of the methods they use while they're tied to their fabricating audio and video methods, pretending not to realize methods. They've had crime acts roles with all the bad things that happen with locations. They've been using investigations, investigators, and vetting identities since founding to hide what keeps that the outcome, which is roles with a predicate acts delivery system method. This is also relevant to how they are kept victims first, per the sustained method, sickly sustained against each age and nature of campus and homeschooled. I said this before, the coronavirus is already recorded, but we have to use evidences as is what is actually recorded. And they are offensively recording fake recorded things inside and outside of courts. See, they already did this in courts and with private databases and with semi-private databases and all that tied to the interbranch and that raised them, including the campuses that raised them, including their ground, everyone speaking through others. That's a method used by this completely fact-cheating nature-oriented predicate acts breaching method, delivery system breaching method. But that knew it would be and already was effectively stayed, juxtaposed through the cover-ups, way worse than just fact-cheating nature only natures of predicate acts like mail crime, wire crime. And so they have body dumping spots. They have actual murders, even if they made up any of this stuff, which they do that too. So, because they keep people conditioned to entertain and to value their criminally foreign influence logic. So we have mandated law that is prevented offensively. And we have the online policing of the platforms, and we have them forced into policies. Forged into policies, so then they could defend their policies, which is defenses of a constitution abridged, in collusion with that which is sequence shifts that they have associated with the organized crime with the child databases. So there are campuses in Wethersfield, Connecticut, further recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, with a whole bunch of people tied to a bunch of people in a Dillon family, and with two Mendez police, and there was a whole bunch of people tied to a Kerr family, and other Wethersfield police that are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated further involved with people on the child sex offender registry and with their family members, with juxtaposed natures of other crimes, and with more sexually themed crimes, sexually natured crimes. And through time, this is also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated relevant to the recorded, confessed, and relevant predicate acts on and off Central Connecticut State University, on and off Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. In New Britain, Connecticut is Central Connecticut State University. These are also campuses that are involved with the remote uses of the Obama administration. Per this, through administrations, I've been asking for a response. The police are recorded threatening to keep, they have wire crime methods They have their interactions with us, also with the other agencies and judges, fabricating audio and video with locations. And they've been using their locations interbranch to fabricate audio and video and verbally pretend things in conjunction with the people associated with the body dumping spots and with doctors also associated with them personally and families criminally involved with medicine crimes and drug crimes with the kids, not just sexual, other natures of it, and with their patients and criminals, those courts and police forms, and the training of them and the training of their prisons and the family members of the prisons are all involved with predicate acts with locations together. And further with the principal child offenders campus. And again, no, further with the school resource officers. There were a whole bunch of people tied to a former director of the FBI like Thaddeus Grabowski, and like people associated with two Mendez police, and with a domain family of police forms, associated with a Mike Domain and an Adam Domain, associated with identity thefts, frauds, clicks, and roles with prosecutors and judges involved with predicate acts with campuses, databases, through time, drugs with kids, medicine drug crimes with kids, and their physical delusions, and their identity theft, frauds, roles, and their roles and uses of where people socially interact, like downtown Hartford. And there are other natures of organized crime with the buildings next to them, that the building on and off Central Fox Connecticut News is involved with them. So fix the wire crime rules you have with WFSB and with the judges, and with the forging names, switching names with prosecutors and state's attorneys with you guys too, because this is also Washington D.C. a bunch of ways, and Washington and World Trade Center a bunch of ways, and involved with the interbranch from my town, intercampuses involved with these predicate acts and these methods that are relevant in our evidences. So. And who denies this? Have them pick one name and sequence of the branch now. Now.